Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, Senior Huntington. Today we are going to dive into the world of accounting and explore the topic of overhead absorption. This is a crucial concept for understanding the true cost of producing goods or services. In this video, I'll break down the different absorption methods, explain how to calculate overhead absorption rates, and demonstrate how to allocate overhead costs to specific jobs. Let's get started. Explain the following terms as used in accounting for overhead costs: actual overhead rate, blanket overhead rate. Now, before I explain these two terms, we need to understand what overhead absorption is, because this question is about overhead absorption. Overhead absorption is the process of allocating indirect costs, sometimes you can call them overhead costs, to products or services. Now, these indirect costs are expenses that you cannot directly trace to a specific unit of a product. For example, costs like rent and utilities, salaries of administrative staff. So these overhead costs have to be allocated to the products or services. And that process of allocating these indirect costs to products or services is what we call overhead absorption. However, if you're to do overhead absorption, you need what we call an overhead absorption rate. An overhead absorption rate is a predetermined rate that is used to allocate overhead costs to products or services. Being that it is predetermined, it is calculated by dividing the estimated total overhead costs for the period by the estimated total amount of the allocation base. The allocation base can be direct labor hours, it can be machine hours, or direct materials costs, so and so on, because we have different allocation bases which we can use when it comes to absorbing these overheads. Now, what is an actual overhead rate and what is a blanket overhead rate? When we talk about an actual overhead rate, this is simply an overhead absorption rate that is calculated based on actual figures. So this rate is calculated based on actual figures. That is actual production overheads and the actual units of the allocation base. So that is actual overhead rate. So you use your actual figures, that is the overhead, and then the units of the allocation base to come up with that overhead absorption rate. Then a blanket overhead rate. Now this is a single rate for all products. It is a single rate applied to all products or services. All products or services, regardless of their differences in overhead usage. Okay, it's a single rate applied to all products or services. So here you will find that the company is using one rate. The organization is using that one rate to assign these overhead costs to the cost objects, that is products or services. Clean Company Limited is a laundry firm that absorbs its production overheads using the percentage of direct labor cost. Using the percentage of direct labor cost in the ironing department and a machine hour rate in the washing department. Remember, each department uses one method of overhead absorption. So in the in the ironing department, they are using the percentage of direct labor cost, and then in the washing department, they are using machine hour rate. The following estimates were made at the beginning of the accounting period, that in the 31st December 2016. So we have the washing department, we have the ironing department. They are giving you the direct labor cost for both the departments. They are giving us the production overheads too for both the departments. Then direct labor hours for the departments, and then machine hours for both departments. Of course, as they have indicated up here, that absorbs its production overheads using a percentage direct labor cost in the ironing department. You will see that the ironing department, most of its work relies on, is done by human labor, because you see that the direct labor costs are more than that of the washing department. Here we have 22.5 millions, in the washing department it's just 7.5. Then for the washing department, they are using a machine hour rate. That's why you see that the machine hours that are being used in the washing department are far more compared to those used in the ironing department. So one department is labor intensive and the other department is machine based. Most of the work is done by machines in the washing department. During the month of December 2016, they got a specific job to clean decorating materials for Events Management Limited. The following cost data related to the job. So to do that job, in the two departments, this is the data which we have. Direct labor cost, that is 5,580,000 in the washing department. Then in the ironing department, it is 15,360,000. 15,360,000. The company incurred actual production overheads of 18,640,000 and 15,202,000 in the washing and ironing departments, respectively, for the year ended 31st December 2016. So what we are required to calculate the overhead absorption rates for the two departments. We have to calculate the overhead absorption rate for the two departments. So we need a rate for the washing department and then the overhead absorption rate for the ironing department. So I'll start with the washing department. How do we come up with the rate in the washing department? So washing department. Remember, the washing department, we have been told that they use a machine hour rate. So the overhead absorption rate in the washing department, of course, will equal to the budgeted or estimated production overheads in that department over divided by the estimated machine hours. The overheads, production overheads budgeted in the washing department, that is 18,450,000. Divide by the estimated machine hours, and those are 720 machine hours. So what is the overhead absorption rate? Of course, when we divide the overheads by the machine hour. The rate is shillings 25.625 per machine hour. Machine hour. So that is the overhead absorption rate to be used to allocate the overheads to the different jobs in the washing department. But then they also want you to compute for the ironing department and come up with that of the ironing department. So ironing department. The ironing department. Ironing department. The ironing department, up here they are telling you that they absorb its production overheads using the percentage of direct labor costs. So using the percentage of direct labor cost. How do you come up with that overhead absorption rate? So the OAR in the ironing department will equal to the estimated production overheads over the estimated direct labor cost, because they have said percentage of direct labor cost. So over the estimated direct labor costs, over the estimated direct labor costs times 100%, because they want it as it's a percentage of direct labor cost. The overheads are absorbed on the basis of percentage of direct labor cost. So how do we get the overhead absorption rate? So this will equal to the overheads in that department. The overheads in the department, production overhead 15,525 of the labor cost in that department, which is 2,500, then times 100%. When you get the overhead over the estimated direct labor cost, you come up with 69% of direct labor cost. So those are the overhead rates in the two departments, that is the washing department and then the ironing department. There has to be an allocation base in each of those departments, and that base is always 1. Which base will be used to come up with the overhead absorption rate used in the allocation of the overheads to the jobs, to the products or services. So that is part B, Roman 1. You have your overhead absorption rates for the two departments. Then Roman 2, determine the total production overhead. Determine the total production overheads charged on the cleaning of decorate materials for the events management limited. Remember, the company got a specific job to clean decorating materials for events management limited, and this is the data that relates to the job. We are not required to compute the total production costs or the total cost of cleaning, so the total cost of the total cost that is going to be charged on the cleaning of decorating materials for the events management? No. You're just required to determine the production overheads to be charged on the cleaning of decorating materials for the events management limited. Production overheads. That's what you're looking at. In other words, how much will be the overheads allocated to this job? So meaning that in this case, we can arrive at the total production overheads. Since we already have our overhead absorption rates, we can get the overheads that will be incurred in the washing department as well as in the ironing department for this particular job. So this is Roman 2. Let's see how we can do that. Roman 2. We want to get the total production overheads. Total production overheads. Charge on the cleaning of decorating materials for events management. For events management. How much are the production overheads charged on the cleaning of decorating materials for events management? Remember, we have two departments, so I have the washing department. This job passes through those two departments. So in the washing department, the overheads are absorbed on the basis of machine what? On the basis of machine hours. So the washing department, the production overheads to be charged to that job. We need to find out what is our rate, because overheads absorbed or overheads charged to the job, we have to get the overhead absorption rate, and it is 25.625. So we have shillings 25.625. We have to find out the machine hours that are required to perform that job. The machine hours to perform the job, we see the specific data for this job. The job requires 1040 machine hours in the washing department. So I have my overhead absorption, and to do this job in the washing department, we are going to use 1040 hours. 25.625 times 1040 hours, this gives you 26,650,000. Those are the overheads that are going to be charged on this job only in the washing department. Only in the washing department. In fact, it's 26,650. Like 26,650. 26,650. 26,650. Okay, so from there, we also now need to look at the ironing department. How much are they going to charge ironing department? In the ironing department, let's try to find out the overheads. So ironing department. In the ironing department. So in the ironing department, still we have to come up with a production overheads that are to be charged to this job. But remember, in the ironing department, we know that the overhead absorption rate is 69% of the direct labor cost. So we have to get 69% of the direct labor cost. 69% of the direct labor cost. How much do they need to perform this job? They have to incur direct labor cost of shillings 15,360,000. So meaning that 69% of this direct ironing department, that will be the overhead charged to that job. So this is 69% of shillings 15,360. 15,360, yeah, 15,360. So what is 25%? Sorry, 69%. 69% of 15,360. 15,360. 69% of 15,360. 15,360. That gives us 69%. That gives us how much? That gives us getting 10, 5, 9, 8, 400. So in the washing department, we see they will incur 26,650. In the ironing department, they will incur that. So when you add, you come up with what we call the total production overheads that will be charged to that job. That will be charged to that job, and that is how much? That is 10 millions. That is 10 millions 625,050. Those are the production that will be charged to the job. Production overheads will be charged to that job. Total production overheads. Remember, to get the overheads charged to the job, you have to get your overhead absorption rate times the actual units of the allocation base. Determine the over or under absorbed overheads for each department and the company as a whole for the year ended 31st December 2016, assuming that the actual direct labor cost and the machine hours worked were as originally estimated. Determine the over or under absorbed overheads. We need to know what is an over and what is an under absorbed overheads. When we talk about over absorbed overheads, that occurs when the amount of overhead that has been allocated to the products is greater than the actual overhead costs that have been incurred. When it comes to under absorbed, that occurs when the amount of overheads allocated is less than the actual costs. So let us see how we can come up with the over or under. Let us see how we can come up with the over or under absorption. Over stroke under absorbed overheads. Over stroke under absorbed stroke under absorbed overheads. Remember, they have said for the two departments and then for the company as a whole. So what I will do, I have to show the departments. We have the washing department and the ironing, washing and the ironing department. Then I also get for the company. Of course, this will be the total company. So I have to get the actual overheads. Let us get the actual overheads. Let us try to come up with the actual overheads. Actual overheads. What are the actual overheads? We have been to the company had the actual production overhead of shillings 18,640 thousand and then 15,202 in the washing and the ironing department respectively for the year. So the actual overheads have been given. Washing and for washing it is 18,640. For washing it's 18,640. So washing 18,640. Then for the ironing department it is 15 millions 202. They have also said for the company as a whole. For the company as a whole, you will just add and get the total for the company as a whole. So if you get for the company as a whole, this will be how much. Let me try to find out. You add 18,640 plus 15,202,000. That is 33,842. That is for the company as a whole. Those are the total overheads in hand. So those are your actual overheads. Because now from the actual, we also now to see the overheads absorbed. Overheads absorbed. Overheads absorbed. Overheads absorbed. How would we get the overheads absorbed? Overheads are, this is a note. Overheads absorbed equals to the overhead absorption rate equals the overhead absorption rate times the actual units of the allocation base. The actual units of the allocation base. The actual units of the allocation what? Of the allocation base. So I can get the overhead absorbed for each department here. So we can get the overheads absorbed for each department. Washing, washing department, washing department. The overhead absorption for the washing department is a machine hour base rate, and that is shilling 25.625, shilling 25.625, 25.625. 625, that is our rate, 25.625 times the actual units of the allocation base. Do we have the actual machine hours in that department? Let's try to find out. We have said assuming that the actual direct labor cost and the actual machine hours worked were as originally as estimated. The estimated machine hours in the washing department were 720, whereas original as estimated 25.625 times 720. Original as estimated. Then ironing. The overhead absorption rate is 69%. 69% of what? Of the overhead of the direct labor. 9% of the direct labor cost. And they are telling us that the actual direct labor cost is as estimated. That is at 22.5 shillings. 22.5. So the actual units of the allocation base are as estimated. So mean that the overhead is absorbed 25.625 times 7, 20,000. That gives us 18 millions. That gives us 18 millions. This is 18. This is 18 millions. 450. This is 18 millions. 450. Then 69% of 22.5 millions. This is 15. 5 to 5. So the company as a whole, when I add these two, 18,450 plus 15, 525, that gives us 39, 33, 33 is 33,975. Then over or under, we have to compare the actual overhead to compare the absorbed. Over or under. Over under. Over or under. So I'm going to put the under in brackets. When you see that the figure is in bracket, just know that that is under absorbed overheads. So the actual overheads, we have 18,640. We have 18,640, and the overheads absorbed are 18,450. So the overheads have been under absorbed here because they have absorbed 18,450. That's why they have charged to the job, but the actual overheads are 18,640. So here we have under absorbed of 190 and absorbed of 190. Then ironing department, the actual is 202,000. Overheads absorbed is 15,525,000. In the ironing department, we have an over absorption of this is how much? This is 3 to 3. 3 to 3. So for the company as a whole, because they say for each department, and then for the company as a whole. So for the company as a whole, we have over absorbed the overheads of 133,000. 133,000. absorption or over absorbed overhead. So one for the company as a whole. So we have for each department, washing department under absorbed of 190,000. Then ironing department it is over absorption of 323,000. There was over absorbed overheads of 133,000. Describe the accounting treatment of over stroke and absorbed is the final account. Accounting treatment of the over and the under absorbed the overheads. Now, when it comes to the shillings 18, when it comes to shillings what? It comes to the shillings, the over absorbed, how much we have for the over absorbed? That is 190,000. That will be recorded as an expense, that is an under absorption. It will be recorded as an expense in the current accounting period, whereas the over absorbed overhead of 23,000 is recorded as a reduction in expense for the period, so it is credited in the final account, that is in the statement of profit or loss. The 323 will be credited, so that is an income, it's a gain over absorption. Then when it comes to the washing department, the 190,000 will be treated as an expense, that is under recovery of the production overheads. But of course, we can take the net income of 133,000 as a credit to our profit and loss. So in the profit and loss for the company, there will be a net income or a net gain of 133,000 will be credited in the profit and loss account. So that is our question. You see, we have managed to look at the concept of absorption. We have seen how to charge the overheads to the jobs. We have looked at the different overhead absorption rates, and then we have also seen what under absorption is and then what over absorption is. Don't forget to like, don't forget to share, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.